Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Right Questions podcast. We have a very special guest this week, my spouse, Neal Thornhill. So, Neal, it's great to have you here. Thanks for being willing to do this with me. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. Not that I had a choice, but that's okay.
And if you're watching on YouTube, we are in a different room of our house. What is this? I guess you call this the front room.
I don't know. It's the room that we never use.
We never really sit in this room. So, because we're kind of always in the family room in the kitchen, like most families. So, this is our little time in this room, and we're going to have a conversation. This episode will be coming out right around Valentine's Day in February. So the topic is relationships and love. And so the question of the day, without making you wait for it, that we're going to address is, what makes love last? And we don't claim to know that for everybody, but we thought it would be fun to explore what has made our love last. So
yeah, fun.
Well, okay, even if it's not fun for you, it will be maybe helpful for some people out there, Neal. And I know you are a helper and a person who wants to be of service and give in the world. And that's why you're here doing this.
That's why I'm here.
So I think before we get into what has led to our love lasting for 27 years, really 31 years, if we count the time before we got married. We were together for 4 years, and then we've been married for 27 years. But before we get into that, why don't we tell the story of how we met?
Oh, you love that story.
You love that story.
Well, I think you deny that story is what it is.
We have different versions of the story. So I'll give you my version. Okay. So I was 21 and I was about to start my third year of college. It was in the summer. Actually, it was the beginning of summer. So it was after my third year of college. I was 21 and all my friends wanted to go to a fraternity party. And I didn't want to go. I was in a sorority. I didn't want to go. And I was like, those fraternity guys are jerks. I'm done with them. I'm into school and my leadership positions, and I don't want to go to any more fraternity parties. And a couple of my friends really pushed me to go. And I said, well, I'll go just to hang out with you. And so I went to the party, and I have no recollection of meeting Neal at the party. I just remember meeting interesting people, not drinking alcohol, and just being really not wanting to be there, but then having fun because I am a very social person. And then I remember a big group of people coming back to the sorority house after. And that's when I remember meeting Neal or realizing who Neal was. And so, well, why don't you give your version up to there and then we'll go from there.
So I remember when I first actually saw Bridget. Oh, and this is funny because there's actually another sub story about when I really met Bridget for the first time, but we'll see if we get into that later. Yeah.
We're not going to tell that story.
Well, in the beginning, you said, is anything off limits? So I should have asked you that, I guess.
We could probably tell that story without names.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. But go ahead. Go back to current. And then
so I saw her and I'm like, wow, she is cute. And she was sitting on my best friend's lap at a party. And I looked at her and I looked at him and I thought, no, she's too good for him. She's mine. I need her. And it was basically on for that night between me and my friend. And we both tried to woo her. And we went from the frat party back to her sorority house. And this is where the questions come in, because my go-to at the time, my little my MO with the ladies was the book of questions. So I'm sure that dates me, but this little book of questions had come out and was really popular, and it was all these "what would you do if" or "in this scenario" type questions. And I enjoyed the question. I thought they were fun, and I got really good at answering them the right way for what the girls liked to hear. So I kept it in my glove box in my car, so it was always ready to go. We stayed up all night that night talking, and we used the book and asked questions. And my friend was answering all the questions wrong, and I was answering all the questions right.
He was answering honestly, probably, right?
Yeah. So, and then there was a point where morning was coming, and I think I had to go to my sister's graduation, high school graduation or something.
I think it was her middle school graduation.
Wow.
Okay,
right? Yeah, sure. Yeah. And then across the street from your house, our fraternity was doing Hell Week too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, memories are coming back. Um, oh, so my friend and I stepped outside and had a chat about who was really serious about her and how this was going to go. And my friend was like, okay, that's cool. You can ask her out. And I did. I went back out and went back inside and asked her out. And that was it. That was it. Um, it's been a long time together, and we've actually grown up together because I was 18 when I met her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was just like about a month or two before I turned 19,
Yeah.
but it was after my first year of college. So I was young and impressionable, and she molded me into the man I am today.
I think you give me too much credit because he was very confident and very mature in some ways. I mean, he was 18, but I remember he was talking about starting a business way back then. And I thought, this is crazy. This 18-year-old kid is talking about how he's going to be a successful entrepreneur, and he is. So he gives me a little more credit probably than I deserve. He's amazing. Just to give my version of that story super quick, I don't remember sitting on this friend's lap, who, by the way, is still one of our dearest friends. And we'll say Steve and Sam are one of our favorite couple friends. We have lots of great couple friends. Karen and Annie, Cindy and Adam, shout outs to all our couple friends. Sorry if we're just going quickly and don't mention all of you, but so I don't remember that part, but what I remember most is the question part. And it's so relevant for this podcast, right?
That's
because
funny.
we talk about the importance of questions
Yeah.
in coaching, in relationships. When you and I go out to dinner, like, we've known each other 31 years, right?
Yeah.
You would think we have nothing left to talk about. So a lot of times we'll try to spice things up and keep it interesting by asking new questions.
She keeps a little deck of cards questions in her purse for if the conversation gets, what do you call it?
If we have a lull.
Yeah, if there's a lull.
Can't have a lull in the conversation, right? I've done that with my friends too.
Yeah.
My friend Karen made fun of me big time. She's like, we don't have lulls. We have lots to talk about. I'm like, just in case, I have my question cards. So obviously I love questions, and that's why Todd and I called this podcast The Right Questions. So back to the question game. We're one of the things we love is playing games. We play Scrabble all the time. So we're both big game people. And when I remember Neal saying, that's really the first memory I have of him, is saying, let's just play this game where we ask the questions from the book of questions and everybody answers them. And it wasn't well, I didn't realize it was a competition. I guess it was a competition between you and your friend about who could have seem more impressive to the women. But all of Neal's answers were the perfect answers. He was like, I would, run into the burning building to save a cat. I would cut off my finger, to help a child. It was like, he was like the most altruistic, perfect human being you could imagine.
It's all true.
I don't know if I bought it completely, but honestly, 31 years later, it has all proven to be true. I mean, he really is like the most solid, honorable, ethical, honest person I've ever known, and stable and solid. And I go to him all the time with problems and things that need to be fixed. And he's just so solid and wonderful. And he's that way for our kids and his friends and his employees. He's a very successful entrepreneur, business owner, leader in many communities, which maybe he'll tell you about, or we'll tell you about if we have a chance. But that's our story. So I think there's a lot more to it. Do you want to just quickly tell, because now if anybody remembers, he alluded to a story about how we actually met before that, but we didn't know who each other was at all. So
no. Yeah.
Go ahead, tell the story, but don't name names because we're still friends with all these people.
Yeah. It is funny because it wasn't until, I don't know if it was years later, we put it together and I realized who you were and what you did to me that night. But my fraternity house was across the street, literally like right across the street from her sorority house. So before I had met her, we were there late one night and there was a few guys, and my best friend Steve was one of them. And we had some girls from her sorority over at our house, and we had music and we were slow dancing, and we were trying to get friendly with these girls. And
women, they're college
at
age
that time,
women.
Yeah,
okay.
We were all like 18.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Okay,
and
borderline.
Yeah, and things were going well for us. The night was looking good, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Bridget, and we just thought it was just some crazy young woman at the time comes barging into the room we were in, snatches up the girls that we were with, and says that this is no good, they shouldn't be doing this, and takes them away. And we were all like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
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 That was not happening on my watch. I believe they were no names, but I believe they were pledges. Oh my goodness. No way. So that was not allowed. You
And
had
it's funny
to.
because one of them is we're still very good friends with.
Yes, but no, we won't give anything else away. So, but we didn't remember that, yeah, until years later. So it's pretty funny. All right. So to our question, what makes love last? So Neal and I have been married 27 years. We've been together 31 years. We have had our ups and downs. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
We've had
Yeah.
times where things were incredibly difficult, where we weren't sure if we were going to make it through. And we don't claim to have the right to say whether anybody else should stay together or not stay together. Not all relationships are meant to be forever. And we totally understand that. But for some reason, we've worked it all out. We've worked hard. We're at a really good place where things are easy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like there's not a lot. I mean, we had so much conflict and so much drama in the beginning.
We
Would you
did.
agree?
I agree with you.
So it's kind of strange to think about how calm and nice and lovely things are now. But I think we worked through so much of that. So we'll try to answer the question for you. And again, we don't claim that what works for us will work for everyone, but we want to share it just in case it offers anything helpful, because we are really happy together and really happy in our lives overall with our family. We have raised 2 kids who are adults who are doing great. We have careers we love. We have friends. We have lots of volunteer work, very rich, full lives, and are very blessed to have each other and still very much be in love with each other. So what do you think, Neal, if we start to try to answer this question with just a couple of like our top, revelations about looking back about what has made our love last? What comes to mind for you?
Perseverance.
Hard work, toil, and drudgery.
Yeah.
Perseverance.
You just have to put your head down and keep moving forward. So we did. We had a tough time for a while, and I think that a lot of couples have that time, and I've seen it in a lot of my friends' relationships, and I think it's very normal. Things add up. You get together young, things are great. You get jobs, and you have kids, and you struggle financially for a while, and money problems are always hard on couples, and we had our share. And then especially with the kids, because you tend to kind of drift apart when you have kids, because you're really focused on the kids. So you don't maintain and nourish your relationship. Then they start to get older, and you're kind of left with like, well, okay, where are we? And there's like all these things really annoy me that you do. So and so it's not good, and maybe you haven't gotten good at communicating, and that's a big part of it, which is hilarious because we're both communication majors. She does her master's. That's her whole career, is consulting with communication. And we still struggled in it. So, but my mindset was I wanted to stick it out and not quit during the hard part, because what's on the other side? And really, have I done everything that I can do to make this work? Because it'd be one thing. I didn't want to quit when things got hard and I didn't try. So I really had to take a look at myself and what I was doing in the relationship, and if I was really giving what I felt I should be giving. And it wasn't so much what I thought you needed, because I had a hard time giving that. We have different love languages. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but I needed to know that I was being truthful and vulnerable and honest, and being the best Neal that I could be. And I knew that I wasn't. So I wanted to work on that first. And by me working on growing as an individual, that took a lot of it off of her and my expectations of her and expectations of the relationship. And then as time moved on, we got over that hump. And so, but I needed to have a lot of perseverance to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
faith too. That if I did what I needed to do for me, it would work out for us. Because it
Mm-hmm.
might not have, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew even if it didn't work out, I would be in a better place at that point because I had done everything that I thought I needed to do to be a good person and a good partner.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the road that I went on, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's kind of like we went on our own roads, and then they just naturally came back together, and they
Mm-hmm.
came back together in a much better way. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thank you
yeah,
for that. It's very interesting to hear. We don't necessarily talk about this as much, as we probably should,
right,
because what Neal is sharing really is helping me kind of understand at an even deeper level what has helped us to grow together over the years. And I can very much relate to what he's saying, because I feel like I became a better and better partner in the relationship as I worked on myself. Same thing. Like in the beginning of our relationship, I had so much individual work and healing to do, from past relationships, from childhood issues, from insecurities and things just that had happened in my life. And I went to therapy. I'm happy to openly talk about how I spent many, many years in therapy working on myself and coaching. Um, and as I became stronger as a person and more determined in my own life to go after my own goals and to seek happiness and fulfillment through the things that were meaningful and important to me, and lessening I had so many expectations of Neal in the beginning that were unrealistic. Like, he should be there for me all the time in every way. He should be my everything. That ridiculous fairy tale that we're sold when we're kids. And it's just impossible for anyone to live up to. So as I started to kind of fulfill my own needs and find my own ways of lifting myself up and being really satisfied and proud of my life and the life I was living, then Neal and I could come together as whole,
yeah,
healthy individuals,
yeah.
and not like expecting the other to fill some
No dependency.
hole. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a. I see that a lot in other people that where one person is really dependent on the other,
Mm-hmm.
and I cringe because it's just not a good recipe.
Yeah.
I feel we're so much stronger together because we don't have that dependency. I
Right.
mean, we depend on each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's different, right,
Mm-hmm.
for certain things,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have a dependency
Right.
to
Right.
be who we want to be based on what the other needs to do for us. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have any of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's almost like I had to let you go at a certain point
Mm-hmm.
and then come back to you as a different person and you as a different person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I remember that happening at times. I remember us being in couples therapy and kind of hitting a wall of like, oh, we each need to do individual work
yeah,
now. Like, we
yeah,
get what our couple issues are, but they're so intertwined with things that I needed to work on, you
yeah.
need to work on as
That's a
individuals.
great point because you can only go so far as a couple until you work on yourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
then the relationship can
Mm-hmm.
be can it's like that. A rising tide raises all ships.
Mm-hmm.
You can't improve the relationship if you don't improve yourself.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. So I think we gave that first part a good, description and explanation of how, really working on yourself and being solid and like super happy with your own life, with or without your partner. We don't want to make our happiness and our satisfaction in life dependent upon a partner. I love how Neal said I had to be good with Neal and be who I wanted to be, regardless of whether or not the relationship worked out. And I think that's what helped the relationship work out. Right. So, I think one of the other things that's really important, and it's kind of connected, is that we both have really full lives. And
yeah,
so maybe we should tell you just a little bit about our lives so you can see how we really fill up our tank. And I like that
yeah. I
analogy.
love
The,
that.
the analogy is that you're supposed to fill your own tank as if it were a gas tank to 90%, and then a partner just tops it off 10%. And we love that. I mean, some people, when I say that, they're like, oh no, it should be so much more. It's not about how much time you spend together. It's about meeting your own needs, taking self-care,
Yeah,
taking care of yourself, making sure that you're the best person you can be and that your life is very fulfilling on your own as an individual. And then you can really enjoy that last 10% with your partner. So for me, I've got tons of friends.
She does.
I have tons of work.
She
As you
does.
all may know, I'm a consultant, a trainer, a coach. I'm a retired professor. I do a ton of volunteer work. I volunteer for our support group for families with transgender kids. If you didn't know, listen to the first episode. I talk about our experience of our daughter, Jackie, coming out as transgender. So I'm very involved with my business with my daughter called Transgender School, where we educate people, which Neal is also very supportive of. I mean, I could go on and on, I do a lot and I love everything I do. And all of that is so fulfilling to me in my business. And so that when Neal and I talk, it's like, we're sharing how excited we are about the things going on in our lives. We're not looking for some, big hole to be filled, to say again. I know it's repetitive, but I just think that's so important.
Yeah.
And how about you? Tell us about all the things in your life.
Yeah, I have a full plate. I own and run an insurance investigations company throughout the state, and it's we made the Inc. 5000 list the past 3 years in a row. So we've had a lot of growth, and managing that, I've had to learn a lot about business because I didn't go to business school, so I had to learn a lot about that. I'm in an entrepreneurs group and president of the Los Angeles North chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. So that's a very meaningful group to me of wonderful people that support each other. And I spend a lot of time there. And I'm a reserve sheriff's deputy for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. And I specialize in search and rescue. So I'm on the Malibu search and rescue team. And I spend a lot of time with that. That's my passion. It's being able to help people and be there in times of need. It means a lot to me. And that can be difficult on a relationship because, I'm on call 365. And, you have to have a supportive partner. And Bridget has always been very supportive of that for me. So it means a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, how could I not be? He's going on a search and rescue mission to save someone's life. He trained our dog to be a search dog all on his own, with supportive, of others who were training their dogs. I mean, it's pretty amazing. There's a lot that I can be incredibly proud of in my spouse, and I rave about him all the time and gush about him all the time. But he's we're both very, very busy in a good way, not busy like people complain about it, but very full lives. So, sometimes people don't understand this. For instance, we're in the pandemic right now, so we're not going out to dinner, but we used to go out to dinner a lot. And we had an agreement that we could be out at dinner. And if Neal got a search and rescue call, I would be Ubering home, or Lyft. I like Lyft. I'll give a plug for Lyft. I would get a Lyft home and go home, and it could be the middle of dinner, could be the beginning of dinner. And we just had that agreement. And I know a lot of people find something like that hard to understand. That's your date night and he should prioritize you. But those are the choices we make. And that's how we live our lives, because we have so much respect for what the other does. And there's just not this neediness. It's great. If we have time together, great. If it doesn't work out, and you have something else, we'll find other time together.
Yeah.
It's not,
but we do try to have rituals.
Yes.
And those mean a lot to me. It's times where we come together to reconnect.
Yes.
And we have our pandemic walk now.
Yes. And walking our dogs.
So we really try to go for a nice long walk with the dogs every night. And that's how we end our day apart, and then reconnect for the evening together. And we catch up and we ask each other how we're doing. And it's really nice. And when we miss that, it's significant. I don't like it.
Yeah. The dogs don't like it.
The dogs
either.
don't like, yeah.
They do not like it. They come when they know it's time. They come follow us all around the house with these big eyes. Is it time? Is it time? Are you taking us for a walk?
Yeah.
So it's important for all four of us.
And when we were going out, we would have our weekly date night where we would go out and just talk at dinner, and we would have long dinners, and it would be really nice. And we start our day each day with a nice long hug. Whoever gets up first, the other one goes and finds that person, and so we have little things that we do to stay connected. But it's not all day long. We don't need that. So,
And there are many nights where Neal's doing things away from home, or I am, depending on the pandemic or not. But and there's not this need that like we always need to be together, but when we are, it's really special to us and really important to us. I want to take just quickly a minute to talk about parenting, and then turn it over to our previous guest who had a question for Neal, because we're starting having guests, as you know, and we wanted to do this fun little thing where we ask each guest to give a question to the next guest. So we're going to be asking Neal the question from our previous guest, and we're going to give Neal the question for our next guest, who we won't mention to make it a surprise, but Neal happens to know our next guest. Yeah. So he can actually keep that in mind as he thinks of the question. But the question for Neal is about parenting and what we remember about our parents in our lives. And I'll just say, you know, Neal has lost both of his parents, and that's one of, I think, the hardest things that we've both been through together, being together so long. I loved and adored and was very close to both of his parents. And I know that he has lots of special memories with them. And so that's what the question is about. But just briefly, Neal, I'll ask you, like, what do you think about how we were as parents, and did that bring us closer? Like, what aspects of parenting actually brought us closer? How do we navigate that? It's one of the toughest things for a couple to do, whether you be, you know, the biological parents or adopted parents, same-sex couple raising kids, whatever it may be. It's really, really challenging in a relationship to be on the same page with child rearing philosophy and to deal with the challenges of it. Do you have any thoughts about how we navigated that might help people?
We were pretty nutty. I mean, it was all about the kids. And we both came at it with 100%, but also from a different perspective. So that kind of caused us to butt heads sometimes. And, you know, who knows what it did to our kids. They turned
out really well. They're amazing. But we I don't know if it's in spite of us or because of us.
Yeah, we were really into it. And it's funny. I have a friend of mine who used to tell me, you know, I only have like a couple goals. I don't want I he only had one goal, that he didn't want his kid in jail. That was it. And I'm like, that's crazy, you know? But then as I got older, I thought, that's keeping it simple. I like that. Because I had way too many expectations for my kids, and that was ridiculous. And I learned the hard way. But I think that spending time with the kids is what was the best thing. Because thinking back about what was special for me with my parents was just spending time together. So there's been lots of times where we've just been together as a family, and we were real big on vacations. And that was just a lot of time together, but we would do other things where we would spend time together without necessarily a goal or, you know, and spending just relaxing time together goes a long way. And when I think back about my mom and dad, I used to sit in the kitchen with my mom when she used to cook, because my mom would cook dinner almost every night when I was really young. And there was this stool next to the stove, and I don't know how I didn't get burned more, but I would just sit there. I loved just sitting there, and my mom would cook, and we'd talk, and it was really nice. And I didn't think of anything of it at the time, but looking back on it is a really nice memory. And I had a similar, my dad worked a lot. I mean, there came a point where he was working 7 days a week, and I didn't see him much. But before that, when I was real little, he liked to go on walks. So he would take me on walks, and lots of times he would pull me in a little wagon, right? Those red wagons. And that was a real nice time. It was because it's just time together. Yeah. So those are some good memories that I had with my parents.
Thank you. Yeah. It's beautiful to hear those. And I don't know if I actually asked the question, but Neal did a beautiful job answering it. So the question from Jana, who was our last guest, and Jana Parker is a licensed educational psychologist and had amazing tips on raising children to be healthy people, and especially in a pandemic with schooling at home and parents stressed out working from home. And she has so much expertise in that. And it was a great interview. Please go back to the last podcast, the 8th podcast, if you haven't listened to that. And so her question for the next guest was what Neal just answered. What is something you remember your parents doing that made you feel really good? And so I agree with Neal. I would just echo that. we spent a lot of time, just relaxed time with the kids. We played games, we went to the beach,
Yeah.
we hung out, went for walks and did things together. And those are the times that I really remember, just bonding with them and all of us being connected, and tried not to make it too stressful. And our different parenting styles, this Neal kind of alluded to it, and it may be helpful. I now look back and think it was probably a good thing, but what we butted heads over was that, Neal was more of the, I don't want to say disciplinarian, but he had a lot of expectations of the kids, and he wanted them to be strong and successful and independent. And he insisted, that they play sports and they play an instrument. And I actually think that's great now. And I think they even think that's great now and appreciate it. But if you can imagine when they were kids, and that was something that was expected of them, they didn't always necessarily want to do it. And I was the mushy gushy one that was like, oh, we do whatever you want, and I love you, and I just want you to feel cared for and nurtured. And and so we kind of butted heads about that. But I think looking back, it might have been a really good complementary co-parenting
That's what I think.
situation.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad we did.
Yeah. And you softened, we have two daughters, almost 24 and 20. And I think our younger daughter got a little easier with you, Neal.
Yeah. She got the broken in dad. The first child had to break me in, and that wasn't easy.
You realize you only have so much control, and they're going to do what they're going to do. Right.
Yeah.
So you have your boundaries and your, reasonable expectations, but anything more than that is probably going to cause more trouble than good it does. But we've learned, you live and you learn. And so that's definitely part of our journey. And we're very close with our kids now. And our younger daughter is living with us because she was away at college and had to come home because of the pandemic. And so I think the three of us are actually enjoying some really nice bonding time that we wouldn't have had. We were empty nesters all of a sudden.
Oh yeah.
And then we weren't for like almost a year. And then all of a sudden we're not empty nesters, and it's the three of us.
Yeah. It was so weird because Bridget was traveling all the time. I mean, she'd be gone for days, and Joanna was off at school, and I was just home alone. And now I'm never alone now. Never. And just so you know, I'm very much an introvert, so I had no problem being alone.
Yes.
But no, I love it though.
But we talk about how like it's temporary, right? She's going to go back to college in the fall. I'm going to go back to traveling for my consulting and speaking work. And it's always, we always are kind of on the same page with like being present, I think, with whatever things are now, and appreciating them and being grateful for them, and knowing that it's going to change, because it always does.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I think we covered everything we planned to cover. The last thing that you get to do is ask our next guest a question that you would like that person. Right. And don't give away who the person is, but you know the person. What would you like? And it could be on anything.
Sure. So how about tell me something about yourself that people don't get to know until they really get to know you?
Ooh. I like that. Something about yourself that people don't know until they really get to know you.
Yeah.
All right. Todd and I will be doing that interview together. So I look forward to hearing the answer to that question. And so we will wrap it up here. We hope you learned a little bit about what makes love last. That was our question for the day. And really, we talked about a romantic relationship, but I think a lot of what we talked about could relate to any love that you feel for yourself, for other people in your life. And I'll end with what Todd always says, because I love it. Until we see you next time, make good choices, be good people.
Thank you. Bye-bye.